Welcome to Christian Podcast, where we look at the world and our own lives through a Christian lens. Today, we're embarking on what I think is a really crucial deep dive. It's a topic that, well, it touches just about every aspect of our modern existence: technological accession and divine revelation, modern spiritual dilemmas. We're going to unpack an intriguing article that looks at how popular narratives like, Black Mirror 7 and Love, Death and Robots 4, how they actually serve as these powerful cultural barometers. What's really revealing is how they reflect humanity's deep struggles with identity, with ethics, and, well, that timeless quest for spiritual meaning, especially now, in an age of rapid AI advancement. Think of them as kind of modern-day parables, maybe, holding up a mirror to our collective anxieties.
hmm It's truly insightful, isn't it? How these sci-fi worlds, which are fictional, often really fantastical, they expose a kind of spiritual void, a void that can emerge when our technological progress just outpaces our ethical and our spiritual understanding. So our mission today really is to explore how Christian theology offers these profound insights and, importantly, a holistic framework for navigating technology's complex impact on human dignity. And we'll also see how Christian hope remains incredibly relevant, maybe even essential, in our increasingly digital age.
Okay, so let's really dive into this idea. Black Mirror 7 and Love, Death and Robots 4 acting as cultural barometers. It's fascinating how these shows, through their often pretty unsettling visions, expose humanity's struggles with identity, ethics, and our universal search for something more, something transcendent.
You've hit on a critical point there. Despite their futuristic settings, and yeah, sometimes grim sci-fi aesthetics, these series are profoundly concerned with human dignity and with the subtle erosion of moral values and this relentless, often subconscious search for meaning. They powerfully reflect humanity's struggle with technological obsession, and I think our innate drive for spiritual transcendence, even if they never quite use those exact words. They show us what happens when that drive is, well, misdirected or maybe left unfulfilled.
That's a really powerful observation. And it makes me think, what do these modern parables, these shows, really tell us about humanity's current relationship with technology and our ongoing spiritual journey?
Well, I think they tell us that when we disconnect from divine purpose, when we try to fill that spiritual need with technology or human-made constructs, the results are often, well, dystopian
Yeah.
and profoundly unsatisfying. Their bleakest visions, actually, in their very emptiness, they highlight precisely what's missing. What's missing is a transcendent reality, genuine, unconditional love, and a true sense of meaning that, extends beyond mere technological advancement or those fleeting digital experiences.
Okay, that leads us perfectly into Love, Death, and Robots 4.
Yeah.
The article we read highlights its overt use of religious imagery. Angels, demons, even messianic figures. But it suggests the show often kind of reduces profound spiritual truths to, well, superficial tropes. What stands out to you there?
It's striking, isn't it, how the series inadvertently, maybe ironically, reveals a pretty widespread cultural misunderstanding of divine grace. Take that episode, How Zeke Got Religion. A soldier's dramatic conversion stems purely from fear of this vengeful, angelic-looking being.
Yeah, I remember that one.
The real takeaway isn't just that Zeke found religion, but that his motivation was entirely transactional. It was driven by a desire to escape punishment. This mirrors what the Apostle Paul warned against, this idea of works righteousness, the idea that you can somehow earn your way to salvation through good deeds or, a fear-driven checklist.
Right.
But true transformation, as Paul emphasizes in Romans chapter 3, it stems from God's unconditional love, not some desperate bargain.
And then there's Golgotha, which portrays an alien invasion and a resurrected dolphin as a messiah figure.
Yeah.
That sounds like, well, a pretty clear trivialization of the Christian understanding of redemption, doesn't it?
Oh, it absolutely does. It trivializes it. The biblical Golgotha, the place where Christ's sacrifice, as prophesied way back in Isaiah 53, brought about reconciliation between God and humanity.
A profound act of love.
Exactly, a profound act of self-giving love and peace. And here, it's sadly reduced to just a spectacle of violent retribution. This distortion really echoes ancient biblical warnings against idolatry, like in Jeremiah chapter 10, where people mistakenly worship or twist created things into something they're not. It just completely misses the essence of grace and sacrifice.
So the sense of despair we see in these narratives, where technological progress just repeatedly leads to emptiness, this futility, it really reflects a kind of nihilism, doesn't it?
It does.
The belief that life itself lacks objective meaning. And this bleak outlook, devoid of ultimate purpose, it resonates surprisingly, almost chillingly, with the serpent's ancient lie back in Genesis 3. You will be like God.
Precisely. And if creation was subjected to futility, as Paul writes in Romans 8, what does it truly mean for a world to exist without divine transcendence? The series implicitly, I think, shows the emptiness of that reality, that profound void left when humanity tries to fill a spiritual need with something other than God. It's the ultimate consequence, perhaps, of believing you can be your own God.
That's a powerful point. Now, shifting gears slightly, Black Mirror 7 takes a different but maybe equally incisive look at technology's impact on human dignity. The article describes its narratives as dissecting the dehumanizing effects of unchecked technology, which, again, really resonates with biblical warnings about idolatry. How do these narratives show us technology eroding human dignity?
Well, a prime example, I think, is the episode 15 Million Merits.
Oh, yeah.
Here, citizens are trapped on stationary bikes, right? Endlessly pedaling to earn these merits just to buy digital entertainment and escape their monotonous reality. It's a modern-day bread and services, really, designed to numb souls to their divine calling and true purpose. This powerfully mirrors Jesus' caution in Mark 8. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? The erosion happens when human worth is defined solely by utility or by entertainment value, not by our inherent dignity as created beings.
Yeah, when I watched 15 Million Merits and saw how human worth was just reduced to data points, it really made me question our inherent value. From a Christian perspective, what biblical concept does that directly challenge? Why is that so significant?
You've put your finger right on it. It's a direct assault on the Imago Dei.
The image of God.
Exactly. That profound biblical truth, stated so clearly in Genesis 1 that humans are created in God's image. When an algorithmic control system reduces human worth to data points, or just cogs in a machine, it fundamentally denies this inherent God-given value. Our worth isn't something we earn, it's bestowed.
And what about things like consciousness uploads or AI governance, like we see in episodes like Beyond the Aquila Rift, where that man falls for a simulated girlfriend only to discover he's trapped in this awful digital void? These raise really profound ethical questions, don't they, about human agency, what it truly means to be human.
They absolutely do. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, when technology attempts to replace or diminish human agency, it strongly echoes the Tower of Babel's hubris, doesn't it? From Genesis 11.
Building their own way to heaven.
Yeah, humanity attempting to ascend to godlike power on its own terms, building their own kingdom without any reference to the Creator. The Apostle John's admonition, do not love the world or anything in the world, from 1 John 2, it almost becomes like a prophetic critique of a society where technological prowess and digital illusions replace genuine relational authenticity and our connection to the divine. It's a stark warning about where our focus really lies.
So, okay, these series certainly highlight some pretty serious spiritual dilemmas. The article we're discussing points to a holistic Christian response rooted in stewardship, love, and what it calls eschatological hope as the framework for navigating technology's impact. Can you maybe elaborate on how Christian theology offers solutions here?
Yes, and this is where Christian theology really offers a profound way forward. It moves us from just critiquing the problems to actually constructing real solutions. First, there's stewardship of creation. The Bible calls humans to rule over the earth responsibly, like in Genesis 1, not to exploit it or, abuse it. Think about that Spider Rose episode. Its tragic cycle of revenge and destruction, all driven by misused technology. It powerfully underscores the consequences of neglecting our stewardship. But conversely, James 1 reminds us that every good and perfect gift comes from God, which means technology can serve life-giving ends, but only when it's aligned with divine purposes. We're called to manage, not master, creation.
Okay, that makes sense. Then there's love as the antidote to isolation. In this increasingly automated world, this digitally mediated world, how does Jesus' command to love your neighbor as yourself from Matthew 22, how does that challenge the isolating narratives we often see in these shows?
Well, it calls for radical empathy, doesn't it? And genuine connection, not just, digital likes or superficial interactions. Episodes like The Other Large Things, Feline Rebellion, which critiques human indifference, or The Screaming of the Tyrannosaur, satirizing human bloodlust and disconnection. They show the deep, inherent need for this foundational love. This kind of love is absolutely essential to counter the dehumanizing effects of isolation and apathy that are so often driven, or at least amplified, by technology. It's about building real relationships, not just networks.
Right. Real connection. And finally, eschatological hope. How is Christian hope relevant today, especially as a counter-narrative to the despair and the, frankly, nihilism that often pervades these series?
The Christian vision of a renewed creation, which is so beautifully articulated in Revelation 21, offers a powerful, truly hopeful alternative to the despair and nihilism we see in something like Golgotha. Resurrection hope gives us the courage, and I think the perspective, to face technological uncertainty without just succumbing to fear. As Paul declares in 2 Corinthians 4, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs all of them." This provides ultimate meaning and enduring purpose that goes way beyond any technological advancement or any potential dystopian future. It's the ultimate answer, really, to the question of what truly matters and why.
It sounds like maybe despite their often bleak outlook, these cultural barometers, these shows, are inadvertently pointing humanity towards a deeper search for divine meaning, even in a darkness.
Absolutely. I think that's spot on. What's so truly revealing here is that despite their often pessimistic tone, Black Mirror 7 and Love, Death and Robots 4 really do, as the article says, unwittingly point to the need for a transcendent reality. They vividly expose the spiritual void left by technological idolatry, and they implicitly suggest that love, justice, hope, these aren't merely algorithms to be hacked or, concepts to be deconstructed. They're divine truths to be embraced. Their very portrayal of a meaningless existence, one filled with tech-induced misery, powerfully highlights the human yearning for something more, something ultimate.
So they really do function as modern-day parables then, kind of pushing us towards something beyond the screen, beyond what technology alone can ever offer.
Exactly. Yeah, precisely. As the prophet Isaiah reminds us, in repentance and rest is your salvation, in quietness and trust is your strength. In this age of constant digital noise, this relentless advancement, the Christian faith invites us to pause, to reflect, and to rediscover the image of God within ourselves and, crucially, within others. Only then, I believe, can technology be truly redeemed from its current path, which often leads towards alienation, and genuinely serve human flourishing, reflecting the Creator who so loved the world.
So we've taken a deep dive today into how these modern narratives, these shows, reflect humanity's struggle with technological obsession and also our universal search for meaning. And we've explored how Christian theology provides a really robust framework for navigating technology's profound impact on human dignity.
And in the end, these series, they really challenge us, don't they? They challenge us to ask a fundamental question. Will we allow technology to define us, to shape our identity and our purpose? Or will we reclaim our identity as creatures made for communion with God and, importantly, with one another? The answer, as we've kind of discussed, lies not in rejecting progress outright, that's not the point, but rather in submitting it to the lordship of Christ, which is a radical act of faith, yes, but one that could yet transform our digital wilderness into, well, a garden of grace.
That really is a powerful thought to leave you, our listeners, with. How will you approach technology in your own life? How can you ensure it serves God's purpose for humanity rather than ending up defining it? Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.